Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming blacksmithing. Looks like my camera's kind of off center. Let me change that real fast. Pan the camera just a little bit. I was looking at it, but I didn't think I had panned it that far that direction. All right, let's go like that. That'll work a little bit better. Hey guys, welcome to the stream. Welcome. Thank you for joining today. So today, we are going to be looking into finishing our ladle. So this is the handle for the ladle that we've been working on over the past couple of streams. We started this guy on Monday. Friday. We were working with it on Monday, and so today is Wednesday, and fingers crossed we're gonna finish it. So hey Mahalo, welcome to the stream. So I have two discs that we're going to be working with for the majority of the day. We're going to start with this one. This is copper. It is less than a millimeter thick. And I know you guys have told me that I should get a piece of copper piping and kind of unpeel it, but I don't have anything to cut it with at the moment. So we're just going to use this flashing and see what happens. Hopefully we don't crack it. If we do, we'll just move on to the steel. We're going to do both of them, sink them in the swage block, see what we can do about making a nice ladle bowl. Whichever one comes out better is the one that we will rivet onto the handle. I think it's a little bit less important in this specific case that the ladle is food safe due to the fact that it's probably going to spend most of its time laying around the shop, or when I eventually get to updating the project wall, it'll hang there. So, first things first, I think what we're gonna do is start up the forge. The propane tank is a little on the empty side, so we will definitely be changing it today. I have a full tank behind the close-up camera. But for the moment, I think it'll be okay. I don't want to change it prematurely. All right. Starter up. It's actually a little on the cold side right now. I know I'm only wearing a sweatshirt, but I'm a little cold. I had actually debated. Dang it. Man, they both killed themselves. So let's see if I can do this better before the ad break starts. Which, yeah, in about a minute and a half. So fingers crossed this works. All right, there we go. Woo! It is kind of cold. It's about 52 degrees Fahrenheit here. Hey, Rabbit Scotsman, welcome to the stream. Yeah, so it's about 52 degrees Fahrenheit here, and that's a little on the cold side for me. I did consider wearing a second sweatshirt layer, but I figured once the forge gets going, it'll get warmer in here and I just won't need it. I'm kind of borderline right now. What I do with my headphones? They are sitting in front of the monitor, so let me go grab those. All right. So, let's grab some tongs. These are our flat jaw tongs. They are the tongs that we use for sheet steel and I guess sheet copper in this case. So, ordinarily I'd stick it in there now and allow it to heat during the ads, but I'm a little bit worried about that. So I think what we're gonna do is we're not gonna put it into the forge until after the ad break is over. That way I can keep really close tabs on it. And I will explain why I need to keep close tabs on it once the ad is over. So yeah, I think the handle, I think it turned out pretty decently, but I think what we're going to end up doing is putting in a couple of twists in the center for both decoration and to kind of line up the rivet holes with the loop that we made on the end of it, because right now they're kind of perpendicular and they don't quite work the way I want them to. So I think a couple twists in here is going to fix that. Oh, ugh, cold. But also thirsty. How you going? I think it's doing all right for the moment. You know what? It helps when I open the little air hole so that it doesn't create a vacuum. Alrighty. So, copper has a much, much lower melting point than steel does. And my forge, theoretically, is a lot hotter than the melting point of copper. And so therefore, I need to be very careful that I don't melt the copper when I put it into the forge, specifically because it is also incredibly thin. So when I put this in, we're going to kind of look for a light red, or I guess not a light red, it's more of a deep red glow. We're going to be keeping a close eye on it. Hey, Dr. Optimal. How's the Mistress of Fire and Metal today? I'm doing pretty good. Let's see if I can get this in here without moving my bricks. Looks like I cannot, so we're going to open the forge a little bit further today than normal. And see how that goes. This might actually be one of those times. Okay, cool. I did it. I did it right for once in my life. Okay. Check out that lovely green flame in there. That is caused by the copper itself. So we're going to have to be real careful. Like I said, we don't want to melt it. So we're going to pull this out just so that we can take a look at it. You can kind of see, well, you could see for a moment there that there was a nice red glow on the edge there. This is about as good as it's going to get as far as heat. So I am going to do this. I'm going to keep distracting you until you melt it. Well, I don't know. That might be a little on the mean side. Let me move this so you guys aren't like, you know, I mean, yeah, I want you to see it, but you know. So we're starting really, really lightly. And we're paying very close attention to all of the ripples that are forming. Because we want to make sure that they are not going to rip or break in weird ways. These are very gentle hits with the end of my ball peen hammer. All right. So we're going to heat this back up again, and we're going to focus in a little bit, probably on this little ripple. Is the copper for the cup part of the ladle? Yes, yes it is. So we definitely want to make sure that we don't melt this, because this will actually contaminate our forge and make it a little bit awkward to work with. I think. All right. So we're using a similar technique, sinking technique that we used when we were working with the Mandalorian pauldron that we did together. So like I said, I am hammering directly on the tops of those folds, trying to kind of upset them back in together. This is going to be like a really quick between heats, but it is also going to be fairly fairly many heats, if that makes sense. All right, so we're starting to get a curve. You can kind of barely see it starting there. So it'd be a lot easier and a lot better with this if it was any thicker, I think. But we're making it happen for us. Slow going at first, but it'll work eventually. It's starting to sink into the hole that we've got made. Hey Lexi, welcome to the stream. We're going to be tending this copper quite often. So hopefully we can make this happen quicker. But I definitely want to make sure that we're not melting it as we go. So we're not really going to have too terribly much in the way of camera movements throughout this. Because it heats up so quickly. All right. A little bit of upset in there. Want to make sure that we've got it at that angle that we want to keep it at. So once we've got this ladle bowl complete, we'll have a little bit more time to kind of talk together. So if I miss something that you've said, a question that you have, I'll try to look up and take a look before I toss it in. Is the copper thin enough that you could cold forge it? Just curious. Yes, I could 100% cold forge it. But it's not just because the copper itself is thin. Copper is easily cold forges, and oftentimes, like most people will actually cold forge copper in general. It will eventually work harden, and then it needs to be annealed. But we are doing this the blacksmith way and hot forging it because we can. And because it's kind of a different way to go about it. All right, more heat. So the forge is a little bit on the cooler side today because I don't want it to be really badly burning our copper. Oh, we folded that edge. Let's see if we can't unfold it. That's what I don't want to see. Got the teeniest little fold in it. I think I've corrected it as well as I'm going to be able to. So it's kind of a slow going process, but you can definitely see that we're starting to curve it. Work hardening on thin piece risks forming a crack. Yes, it does. That's definitely what I'm trying to avoid here. It is one of the reasons why I am working hot, because it's a lot harder to work harden it if I am working it while it's really, really hot and keeping it nice and hot. And like I said, these are relatively light blows, so we're trying our very best on this one. I'm not shying away from folds, but I am kind of trying to manage them. So we've got a weird fold going on right there. So I need to kind of address that real quickly. On the edge of the swage block, just to make sure that I'm not going to fold it over completely. I'm also very aware that I could seriously rip this piece as I'm going, which is why I have the piece of steel as a backup. All right, I'm going to change the camera angle so that you can see a different angle as I go. Oh, you know what? I totally forgot to like hit record anyway, so that's awesome. But it's all right. I don't actually think this is the one that is going to get attached, so I think we're okay. All right. Clap, so far so good. I know, right? But I mean, it's not bad already, you know? It's relatively rounding. Let me grab a drink before, because like I said, it does not take long to heat this guy up to a point where it's almost, you know, to that melting point. I could almost just like leave the tongs in there, because it's just, they're not going to heat up enough to like really do much in the way of damage to my handies. I think we're going to go right there. All right, there is a little bit of a fold here that I really want to take out. And there it is. It's nice and flat now. to work on this. There. So this one, I think I have to be super duper careful with it. It's like I said, I'm planning on it not working. The other one is going to take a lot less time. That's why we're kind of starting with this one. I want to make sure that, you know, we get it done the way we want to. All right. I'm going to heat it up on the side that we've been touching it with, or I guess grabbing it with. You're definitely more patient than me. I'd have a bunch of weird folds matched in there. I am the worst about being patient. Normally. I'm actually not being I'm being a lot less patient than I should be. Because I'm allowing it to wrinkle in weird ways that I probably shouldn't. So every time I'm hammering on a wrinkle like that, I am actively upsetting the copper. So by sinking it like this, like right into the hole, I'm stretching the copper. And then I go back, and when I start hammering on the top of the wrinkle, I'm actually increasing the diameter, or I guess the thickness is what I'm trying to say. I'm increasing the thickness because this is an upsetting process. Like when I am hammering the material back in on itself with steel. The same thing happens when you're working with copper. So my silversmithing instructor used to use 10 gauge sterling silver to make all of her vessels. And she made a lot of teapots and things like that. And when she was done, she actually had thickened the material so that it was over 10 gauge at the bottom when she was done. So that's what I'm trying to do, is kind of thicken it up a little bit as we're going. All right. You can kind of see it glowing there a little bit as I'm taking this out. And the goal here is to kind of match the sinking of the material to the hole that I'm sinking it into. And we are starting to succeed, just ever so slowly. Man, I wish I had a slightly lighter hammer is what is my main wish right now. Because this is going to be the best hammer for the steel. But I have to be really careful and really gentle with this copper. what I want to see. We're starting to be able to kind of upset them, or the pieces inside of the round hole. So this is where we're going to start getting a little bit of extra movement as we go. It's going to start getting a lot more rounded. It's becoming bowl-like. Yes, it is. Okay, copy in the cuppa. Are we making a bowl? We are making a ladle. So we've got quite a bit of scale that's starting to come in. So we are going to kind of clean that off just a hair. But yeah, we are making a bowl out of like the skinniest piece of copper that I have ever worked with. All right. Hey, Corwin. Welcome to the stream. So we're starting to get there. Check that out. And we haven't even like cracked it yet. I'm super excited about this. I really want to like touch it because I want to see how strong it's getting. It was like really, really crinkly and bendy before, but we should be actually getting a little bit more rigid as we're going through this process. And I'm hoping that by the end, you know, we won't be able to crush it with one hand. One day it will become a handle bowl. Yes, yes, it will. A ladle. Maybe. I don't know that for sure because you know what else could be that? I mean, we could be using this guy for our handle bowl. All right. And I am going to change angles after this heat, I think, just to keep in some variety. I'm trying real hard. To keep it so that you guys are seeing multiple angles of what I am trying to do right now. All right, nice. And as we go, we're just getting deeper and deeper. Deeper and deeper. So I started with a 6-inch copper disc. Like I said, this copper disc is ridiculously thin, less than a single millimeter. All right, we need to heat this up again. But yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm gonna flip it so that we're getting a little bit more heat on this side because that side's a little bit more shallow. Gonna get a bowl of chili in one scoop, right? That would work fine for me. One scoop, one bowl, especially chili. Yeah, it's gonna end up being like closer to a 4-inch bowl at the end. You know what? I said that I was gonna change, and I didn't. Oh God, oh God, oh God. Sorry, it's like stupid hot in there. I got a little bit distracted. Y'all said you were gonna keep me distracted so that I melted this. You know, it might happen. I won't lie, it could happen. Ever so. Doo-doo. So it is possible to, obviously it is possible to hot forge copper like this. It is also very possible to hot forge bronze and brass, but they are very temperamental metals. And they all start with copper, and as a result, copper is also, well, I guess since, you know, copper is the base metal for all that, it's copper's fault that they're all temperamental. But yes, well, all I'm trying to say is copper-based metals are very temperamental while you are hot forging them. So we do the best that we can. All right, so I'm going to let this sit here for a moment so that I don't melt it. Automod doesn't like slag. How dumb. Going to turn her into a pile of copper slag in her forge. Yeah, that's totally what's going to end up happening. I think slag is an insult in, like, England? I think. I'm not positive on that. I thought that's what it was. All right. So we are going to go from this side. All right. Okay. All right. Well, since copper is so easy to work with, you can occasionally anneal it and cold work it for an unheat and then back in the forge when it starts to work harden and do a hot work set. Yes, that's very much the case. Honestly, the reason that I am hot forging this in general is because we are so thick and I'm unfamiliar with how thin it is. Or we are so thin and I'm unfamiliar with working with a sheet this thin that I don't know when the tipping point is between it's going to move and it's going to rip. I don't know, but you try and use the proper terms in the proper context in which flags it happens all the time. Wonder if the auto mod hates bollocks. So yeah, I think that the proper term in the proper context, because auto mod is just like an AI that just like reads the stuff and is like, this is a list of words that if I see it, we're going to flag it for moderation, you know? So I can, you know, I could, in theory, just make a list of words that I want it to flag and then put some white words on there that it won't flag. But I'm always afraid that I will miss something. You know? And it would take a lot of work to make a black list and a white list for the auto mod. So I've kind of just let it do its thing and stuff. I have an ad break that is starting, and that's why I'm just standing here. If you guys are wondering why I haven't put the copper in the forge. Like I said, it's only about 30, or not like I said, but like you've noticed, it's about a 30-second time between when it's hot and when it's gonna melt. So I'm kind of trying to judge. Evening sandwich. Hello, hello. So yeah, we have a very shallow bowl right now. Slowly, it's getting deeper and deeper. Woo, look at all that. I don't know, a flagged message I once had because I typed Alaska. That's weird. Very strange. But yeah, as we go, it's going to get deeper and deeper. And eventually, we are, like I said, we are going to reduce the diameter of the lip of the bowl quite a bit. So, yeah, we're working it. Working the problem. Seeing if we can't make it, okay. Hey, I can actually, like, touch it. It is a little bit, you know, squishy, but it's getting a little bit stronger. So that's actually a good thing. So it is starting to rigidify. And I can actively feel that the bottom of this is thicker than the edges. So we are gaining some thickness at the bottom of this piece of copper. So that's really exciting. And I'm in an ad break, so you guys probably didn't actually hear that, so apologies. Yes, it's kind of work hardening a little bit at the bottom. Yeah, so it's kind of work hardening a little bit at the bottom as we're going, but it is also actually getting thicker at the bottom as we go. You know, we've already raised the edges quite a bit, but yeah, the edges are still the same thickness, but we've been upsetting the material and rolling it in, and it's like I said, it's actually starting to develop more material at the base. We need proper measurements. Grab the micrometer. I do not have a micrometer, unfortunately. There are actually digital ones that they have lasers and they kind of will shoot, like, I don't know, electrons or whatever, and it'll actually like measure it straight up. I do not actually have one of those. Those are kind of on the heavy, or I mean on the expensive side. All right, so I'm gonna heat this up. And we're gonna keep on keeping on. But yeah, I can actively feel, like with my fingers, that it is thicker than the edge. And I think we're gonna go there. I hope you guys can see all right. Is my hand in the way? Let me know. Well, I can change the camera angle if you need me to. So I think technically this would be considered red smithing. .6 or fingernails thick, something like that. So yeah, like I said, I'm hoping that you guys can see what I'm up to and that my arm isn't in the way. All right, more heat. But yeah, we're getting there. Camera angle is fine. Awesome. We're blacksmiths, not machinists. We don't use. We use diameter. Yes. Exactly. All right. Like I said, I gotta make sure that I don't end up burning it, especially as it starts to go round, because it's starting to get a little bit harder to this one to pick it up with the tongs. And obviously I can't try and pick it up with my fingers. too bad. Not too bad. We are going to turn this guy, again, this direction, and start working from this side, but we're going to heat it up again. Well, actually, you know what? There shouldn't be any work hardening on this side, so we're going to clean this side up a little bit, and then we're going to heat it up. This is going to be, if I can get this one to work, the thinnest bowl ever on a ladle, I think. Not bad at all. JRH 2385, thank you so much for that subscription. It's a Prime subscription. That is awesome. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate all of your support. From viewing to subscribing, you know? All right. Let's see if I can get this out before it starts melting. I don't know if you guys remember, but back when we were playing in the cold shop, we did a technique called reticulation, where we developed a forge scale skin, and then we melted the metal inside of that skin. And that is actively what is happening when I let this bowl like sit in the forge. So it's starting to like melt inside of the skin. So I gotta be a little bit careful because reticulation does not happen with copper. What actually happens is that it just starts melting holes. So I gotta be careful. All right. Will the bowl have a spout? Kind of ladle soup without a spout. Oh, can't ladle soup without a spout. Possibly. I have yet to decide that. I mean, you know, it probably will have a spout, but there's always a chance that I'll forget. I'm very good at forgetting things. Well, basically, I want to see how to form a spout. Oh, okay. If you're interested in how to form a spout, we can do that, especially on the steel. We are doing a second bowl today, if I can get this one finished. And that one's going to be a lot easier to deal with. It helps when the tongs let go of my metal. You guys know? So I'm actually doing a backwards raising motion for this. Ordinarily, when you are raising, which is an outside technique, what you would do is you would go from the center outwards. Right now what I am doing is going from the edges toward the center. So right now we have a very flat bottom and very rounded edges. So as we continue working, the whole thing will start rounding out. And depending on how much longer this starts taking, if this starts taking a really long time, I might switch to the steel bowl just so that I can show you what it's supposed to look like in the end. So we're definitely getting a much deeper bowl as we go. We have plenty of thickness in the sheet steel, so it shouldn't take nearly the amount of time to do the steel bowl than it is taking for this copper one. As I get my tongs kind of caught in my apron a little bit there. All right, we're starting to get to a point now where I'm gonna have to start straightening out the edge on the flat surface. Oh. Need to turn up the forge just a hair because it's starting to get a little on the cold side. I am not going to, because I've had to turn up the forge, I'm not going to change the camera view right this second because it's going to take even less time to heat. So apologies. But the forge is not exactly the happiest right now because I have it on really, really low. Okay. Let's go in the center area some. This is a really wide, really shallow ladle bowl. It seems. All right, a little bit more heat, but you can definitely kind of start telling. I think our next heat, we're probably going to go around the outside edge to kind of create that a more smooth lip as we go. I want to kind of put a little bit more of a round right there, and then it'll probably be done. This is probably a little on the wide side for the handle that we've made. It's starting to fatigue my back just a little bit doing it this way. So we've kind of got a natural, like, pour spout that's starting to form right there. I don't necessarily think I'm opposed to that. But yeah. All right, so this is exactly where we're going to have to be really careful that we don't end up tearing the center area. Because I'm trying to really round out the interior of the bowl a little bit further, closer towards that center. All right, more heat. So you can kind of see what we've got going there. Not bad. Oh, come on, get in. Get in there. This morning at the crack of dawn, I'm headed down to my forge, well, Adam's forge, to make my challenge tool. Fingers crossed I get the fire lit. Well, yeah. Fingers crossed you get the fire lit. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna end up melting this by the end of the stream. Good Lord. Do you know what challenge tool you're going for? All right. I think we are almost done with this bowl. I don't think I can get much more of it with the current tool setup that I got. I could theoretically use the, and I honestly, I probably should, this tool to work a little bit better, and we might use that. I think we're gonna do one more heat on this guy, and then we're gonna put him aside and do the steel. Check that out. It's not too bad. Pretty happy with that. Very bowly. It is. I'm actually pretty excited. It's working the way I want it to, and a lot easier than I thought it would. And I mean, I know that this doesn't look all that easy, but it kind of is. All right. All right. All right. I think we're going to leave that one like so for the moment. It's not too bad. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to do the exact same thing, but in steel. This would be faster if Ray had a better bowling average. It definitely would, but you know, my average is like 127. So at least it's over 100. You know, that means that I can hit spares and strikes, right? All right. Now we're gonna turn up the heat. Better than me? Really? $127 is not bad. Ouch. I mean, it's not good either. It's not terrible, but it could be better. All right. So, I'm usually comic relief when I bowl. All right. So honestly, copper is a lot. It doesn't hold heat nearly as much as steel does. So I can actually pick this up, touch it, kind of give it a little bit of a squeeze. This is a little bit too thin, and I don't think that we're going to be able to build up the edges enough to kind of make up for the fact that it will crush, right? If you get like, if you put something on top of it, it's going to get crushed. So this is probably not the bowl that we want to use for our handle. The other reason is that this bowl is like huge for this handle. Look at this. This is crazy. So I think this was a good exercise, but I think that we're going to get a more success using the steel. So I think that's where we're going to get our handle our bowl for our ladle. But I mean, it could be a thing. It might work. Whoops, I guess it goes this direction. But yeah. So, our next what we're trying to do next is kind of dish out the steel a little bit faster to create the bowl that's actually going to get riveted onto the handle. So it should take a lot less time or a lot less heats, maybe more time, between heats because it's gotta heat up, and I do have some time to like talk. But yeah, I think we're hot enough to start. So let's see what we can do. I'm gonna take this off so you guys aren't stuck looking at it. I think I'm gonna put the inset right there. All right, so we got a nice. Well, you know what? This might actually take us just as long. Alright, so we've got a decent start there. We're going to keep on keeping on. Let's get some more heat. So, I am starting to think that maybe I cut my bowls a little bit too wide, like the diameter too big. I might want to cut some off, but I think that that's not. I don't think that that's a bad thing necessarily. I think if I make it real deep, the steel bowl, then I can kind of cut it all smooth at the end. Cut off the excess with like an angle grinder or some scissors or something like that. I think it'll probably be an angle grinder, but still. The ladles need a larger soup pot. Yeah, right now, I mean, if like if the steel one is as big as the copper one, we definitely need a really big, like, you know, one of those unending soup pots or something, you know? In medieval kitchens, they had the unending soup pots. Looks a little bit like a scoop for a water bucket you see in Western movies. It kind of does, you know? I'm not unhappy with this. You know, it could use a little bit more refinement, a little bit more work. A cauldron, yes. Piece will still make an excellent decorative bowl, polished and flame painted. Yeah. Like I said, it could definitely use a little bit more refinement. And I think if we will, at the end, if we don't, or if we finish in time, I'll probably go over to the ball stake and kind of smooth this out a little bit. We've got some lumps and bumps that we can chase out of this guy. And I think that would actually be pretty nice, you know? You could put keys in here or something, you know? It's not too bad. The other thing that we can do is we can take a tiny cross peen like this guy, and we can actually hammer directly on the edge of the bowl, right? And upset the edge. Right now, the edge is a little bit on the sharp side, but if we hammer directly down, we're lowering the ridge, or like the lip, a tiny, tiny bit. We're kind of flattening it out, and we're making it a little bit thicker. So I think, you know, we can do something with this too. Is the copper one rigid enough to rivet the handle on without it bending under the load of the attachment point? It is not, right? That's why we are not going to be using this guy. The edges, you can kind of see that I'm able to bend it one-handed. If I were to rivet this onto the handle, I would be terrified that the bowl would rip right off of the handle, right through the rivets. So we are going to use the steel bowl. I see. Yeah. That's what I was afraid of when I started that bowl, that it just wouldn't be rigid enough. And I was right. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm not upset by it. I knew that would happen. Honestly, I am delighted that it didn't even rip. I thought for sure I was gonna rip that bowl. So, you know, I made 2 discs specifically so we could compare the two. Or use the copper bowl as a liner inside the steel. Might look cool. I mean, maybe it could. You know, we might be able to do that. We'd have to roll the edge of the copper over the steel. It's something that we could do. You know, I don't know. It would definitely make it a little bit harder to clean in the end, you know, if you're using it for food. I think there are other ways that we could get a nice interior for the bowl. We could tin it, or, you know, any number of other things. But we could put the copper bowl as a liner. It's a possibility. It's just, I probably am not looking to do that. All right. Once this ad break is over, I'll do my next heat. You could pull struts from the attachment point to the opposite edge to stabilize it. Maybe not practical, but unconventional. It would be very unconventional. Theoretically, you know, if you wanted it to be a strainer, you know, strain some of the bigger chunks of whatever it is that you've made your soup out of, you know, like, I don't know, ham bone stew or something, maybe. My nose is starting to run. It is running away with me. All right. So like I said, we are starting again on a steel bowl. You know what? I'm still in the middle of an ad break, so if I, reiterate what we're up to, nobody's going to see it except for you guys who already know what we're doing. I don't know. It's one of those days, guys. It's one of those days. I was up extra late last night because I was RPing. Like I was playing D&D and it just kind of went a little bit long. So I'm a tiny bit tired. It would still be a little, but the copper wouldn't take the full load. That's very true. That's very true. All right, let's do our next heat on the steel. I don't know. If you guys are, dead set on me putting the copper bowl on, we can talk about that. All right, more heat. So we're starting to get a little tiny bit of a rounding. So, it's going to take a few more heats, but we're getting there slowly but surely. When I forge ground rods, I sling off the molten copper at the first heat, and when I'm done with the steel, when I'm done, the steel winds up looking like copper as long as I only wire wheel it one time. That's really cool. I've never forged a grounding rod. I had one at one point and I wanted to forge it, but I think someone took it. Not that they took it, that I gave it away. I think I gave it away. So, I mean, that does look, or it does sound like it would be cool. So, the other way that you can get like copper or brass onto a piece of steel is while it's still black hot, you can kind of use a copper or like brass brush on it, and it will the molecules from the brush fibers will actually transfer onto the surface of the steel. So you could get it that way as well. The metal cools off so quickly. Take a baking dish out of the oven and you'll have to make sure not to touch it for quite some time. The same with a baking tray. Give it a few minutes and you can carry it with bare hands. Yeah, and like the thin sheet that we have right now, it's very similar. I mean, it's going to be hot for a good like 5 minutes or so, but because it is so thin, the heat dissipates relatively quickly throughout the piece. All right, let's do another heat. After this heat, I am going to change the camera angle just so that I can have a little bit of variety as we go. As I'm sure you can tell, I'm using a much heavier swing. On the steel than I was on the copper. You can kind of see that it is starting to gain some shape. But we've got a much thicker piece of steel that we're working with, and so it's going to handle a lot more stretching than the copper was or would. So I'm not concerned or as concerned, so I'm being a lot less careful. A lot less careful. All right, let's change angles. So we're going to go back over here. We've seen this angle before with the copper, but I'm kind of trying to get a little bit of a variety for the whole thing. All right, I think that's all right. Right there. All right. Next thing that we're going to do is heavy swing. Is that like Dixieland Jazz with distorted guitar? Maybe. So right now we are losing our propane. So I'm going to change the tank real fast. I have a brand spanking new tank right there. What'd I do with my... I'll bet you I know where it went. Ugh. Yes, this is where it went. I was changing the disc on my bench grinder. Alrighty. While I do this, I'm going to move it over there so you guys can kind of see a little bit what I'm up to. We turned off the tank. Oh, I was using it for something different, so it's not automatically set to my propane anymore. Nope. Okay. Good thing that wasn't on. We dropped the mailbox by accident. I'm going to put this guy down there. It did not hit the floor, so we're good. Drop forward. Yes, eep on that. Ugh, I forgot to reset the drop command. Apologies. All right. So we've got our brand new tank. And we're going to hook it up. Hook it up. So I have a milk crate that the propane tanks sit on. And so the mailbox got caught by the milk crate. So I lucked out there. Because if it had hit the ground, there's always a chance that it would crack. Okay. Let's start this guy up again. So yes, I lucked out. Hella lucked out. I would have cried if I had broken the mailbox, guys. I would have cried. Alright. Nice hot forge. Okay. Alright, we are back in business. Exciting, exciting. All right, I'm going to reset the camera because I don't think we've actually gotten any actual action with this camera angle yet. Okay. Shall we do another heat? I'm going to put us right there, I think. I think that should be all right. All right, more heat. I love using flat sheet. It is so much fun. So much fun. Yes, needs more heat. That's what we need. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this bowl. It's nice and cold now. It's actually like actively cold to the touch. But yeah, I can squish it. So I wonder if we could do this. So normally this is done so you get a thin cross peen and you kind of just hammer on the edge. And normally this is done while seated with the bowl in your lap. So I'm wondering if we can do a little bit of that. And thicken it out. I'll have to do that later. So I'm wondering if I thicken that out, the edge, if it won't squish as much anymore. Sounds like some rave song. Heat is what we need. Yeah. You had a blizzard? Oh my goodness, Ping. That is awful. We're actually getting a heat wave. By Friday, it's supposed to be 60 degrees Fahrenheit here. So right now, it's in the 50s. And that's why I'm only wearing one sweatshirt. So I don't know. I guess all of your heat, we sucked it into the Midwest of the United States. Wowzers. Yeah. What was that? It sounded like a text message. I think it's informing me that it's gonna rain. Is that what this is? It looked like it. Yep, rain possible in the next hour. So, you know, send it my way, or send it my way and crank up the forge, right? I like my heat, so I'm sorry. Maybe I'll send you some of the forge heat. All right, let's do another heat. Ooh, look at that glow. I love it. I love it. We getting there. '40 is forecasted for Friday here. Can't wait. Yeah. The 40s is better than the, below zero that it was on Monday. Lots of jumping scale, yes. So the thinner a piece of steel that goes into the forge is, the more scale it starts developing. Since this is a piece of 20 gauge sheet steel, we're going to develop quite a bit of scale. And because I'm using relatively heavy hammer blows, it is starting to crack off and jump up. So I recommend, I know I'm not doing it right now, but I recommend a dust mask if you don't want to get it all over your face. I probably should be wearing a dust mask, but the scale is big enough that I shouldn't be inhaling it. With the humidity, we're pushing 40 here as well. Different scale, same number, right? 40 Celsius is a lot different than 40 Fahrenheit, though. 40 Celsius is probably pretty darn hot. Found the Australian, yes. Yep. All right. Let's do another heat. And I'm going to do my very best to finish this, ladle today. I know I said I was going to last Monday and today too. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. It's like a keychain bowl right now. Well, sort of. I'm from Texas, and moved to Darwin last year. It's like August in Texas all year. I mean, in Texas all year. Here, wow. Is that because you're in a desert? Isn't the outback of Australia like a giant desert? If I know, or if I heard that correctly. Okay. Let's see. Can you see that in the wide? No, you cannot. Awesome. Yay! All right. Okie doke. All right, I did press the button. I pressed the button. Darwin is more rainforest, isn't it? Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with Australia to be able to say what biome it would be where. We're getting there. Slowly but surely. Man, I'm gonna feel it in my forearms tomorrow. Tropical. We're closer to the equator than Mexico City. We get all the cool fruit trees. Oh, that's cool. Fruit trees. Lots of potential for free food, free-ish food. And every venomous, bitey, scratchy animal in the world. I always see these memes where it's like, everything in Australia wants to kill you. So that's what I think of, you know, even like the kangaroos and the koalas and stuff, they all want to kill you. I'm in the UK and it's just damp and dull 4/5 of the year. It's supposed to be winter right now, but it's 53 degrees Fahrenheit or 12 Celsius. How heavy is this hammer? It's about 1.5 pounds. It's not too bad. It is about the size of like your typical framing hammer. So ordinarily, I'll be using like a 2.5 pound rounding hammer or a 3 pound cross peen hammer. So it's really not a big, like, it's not the weight of the hammer that's kind of making or fatiguing my wrist. It's kind of like I'm using a lot of wrist motion. So the fatigue I'm feeling is more like carpal tunnel and less like muscle fatigue, if that makes sense. So, you know, there's a little bit of extra weight that's going on here, like, because there's more weight on the upside than, or, you know, bringing it back up than it is coming down. And yeah, so it's more of a tendon thing than a strength thing, you know? All right. Mo heat. Mo work. A little bit of a fold developing right here, so we're going to hammer that down real quickly. And then we're going to heat it up some more. We've got a bowl going pretty well. We are almost to the same point that we had with the copper bowl. A few more heats and we will have that same depth. Hey Bluesy, welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. All the wildlife there can get you, but mostly it wants to get away from you. Most animals are more afraid of you than you are of them. And I'm totally aware of that when it comes to cows. Y'all know I'm terrified of them. But you know what? A lot of cows, when they get into the fight or flight, they're gonna fight. And I'm not willing to fight a cow. All right, we got about 3 minutes before our next heat. That shows you are smart. I try. We have pineapples, mangoes, passion fruit, and dragon fruit in the yard. Neighbors have banana trees for scale, however. Banana trees for scale, yes. I mean, do you guys trade? You trade some of your fruit for the bananas and vice versa? All right, I'm going to do another heat before our ad starts. Mo heat, mo heat. We're getting there. We've got a bowl for keys right now. I feel like that's what this bowl reminds me of right now. I mean, cows do not even need to want to fight. They can smush you perfectly well when rubbing against you affectionately. That is very true. Cows are like super huge. Big. And I'm a small person. One of the people in our family unit is always bringing home buckets of lemons and entire bunches of bananas. 15 kilograms or so from his parents' house. Wow. That's a lot of lemons. But you know, lemons are really good for a lot of different cooking uses, as well as, you know, like cleaning and stuff. So, you know, you are a giant, Ray. I'm 4'10"-ish. I suppose I'm about 6 inches taller than you. A little over 6 inches. I am 5'5". I look a lot taller because I've got, you know, like 1.5 to 2 inches from my shoes. So I'm only 5'5" or 5'5" when I'm barefoot. So I guess compared to you, I am a lot taller. I used to be 5'2". Man, as you get older, yeah, gravity, you know, it exerts control and starts shrinking people. I'm not looking forward to that because I feel like I'm going to shrink a lot. So we are in the middle of an ad break, and I'm out of water, so I'm going to grab some Gatorade. And I'm going to change the camera angle while the ad is going. So we're going to get Gatorade first, because it's Gatorade o'clock. Aw, shoot. I locked myself out of the house, guys. Good thing I actually brought my keys out. Every once in a while I do that. Okay. Let's close the door so the cat doesn't get out. Oh, goodness. Gatorade. And moving the camera. Where's a good spot to move it? Let's move it over here. Let's open this door a little bit further. And we'll do that. That's going to be a decent angle. Okay, that should be good. We're in focus. There we go. Okie doke. No burglaring your own house, right? I accidentally locked myself out of the house, so I have the house key, so, you know, I'm good. You know, I was able to get in, but I had to actually unlock the door because, you know, I must have, like, hit the lock as I came out here out of habit, you know? Oh, alas. Also, I just changed my Linux. I'm on Gen 2, but I upgraded stuff, has moved around, so be patient with me. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, it takes a little bit to figure out new programs, new hardware, and new softwares. Okay. I hear you, though. Every time we get a new OBS update, or a new update for my editing software. Alright, more heat. We're getting there. If we compare the copper bowl with the steel bowl, we're about there. I want to dish this a little bit more, just so that it's a little bit easier to get soup into your bowl and get it to stay in there. So I want to kind of bring in the sides a little bit more. Getting in your house when you have access to your workshop is easy, right? Because, I mean, I could totally drill out the lock to my house, or I could, you know, cut open the door, any number of different things. It's starting to break day, but my morning coffee hasn't kicked in yet. I know if I walk down to the shop, I'll come running back in short order. Yeah. I have a tendency, yeah. The first thing I drink, it tends to rush through me. All right, so we shouldn't need too terribly many more heats for the steel ladle bowl. So once we've got that taken care of, I will have to kind of look and figure out how I want to go about punching the holes. I might just use the same punch that we used for the handle to punch the holes in the ladle, but we'll kind of see. I gotta straighten out the little area that we punched so that it's a little bit, right now it's kind of angled, so we'll have to straighten that out and then, you know, attach the bowl. I also have some material here that we can use for rivets. So it's a little bit on the thin side, but I think if we make it long enough, we should be able to upset it and it'll stay. Get some good heads on there. All right, what do I want to do with this for the moment? I think I might actually stick it right there. Another heat. But yeah, part of the reason I don't want to break into my own house is because I think the butler's going to be mad at me if we have to change the locks because I broke them. You know? All right. We're starting to get there. Probably what we want to see. Mo heat. You blacksmiths and the poor iron, always wanting to upset it. I am always wanting to upset it, but I'm very mild with my upsetting, right? I don't upset it by insulting it. I don't upset it by bullying it. I just tell it lots of dad jokes, you know? The cornier, the better. We have an entire thread dedicated to dad jokes in the Discord for upsetting our steel. It's getting pretty deep. I want it to be a little bit more deep and a little bit the diameter to shrink a little. That's what I'm trying to say. Upsetty spaghetti. Yes. Upsetty spaghetti. All right, let's do another heat. Raw. Let go. Rar. There we go. Much more better. I'm putting my hand all up in front of the camera, I feel like. Apologies. Trying to make it a little bit easier for you guys to see. All right. Ah! Oh, come on. Not bad. Look at that. We got a nice bowl going there. You have access to the pins in the hinges. You can easily knock them out. After that, you're in your house. See, the person who put my door on the hinges was relatively smart in that I have a screen door that opens outward, and I could take that off using the pins. But the interior door, like the big heavy door with the locks, the hinges, it goes inside the house. So I don't have access to the pins on that particular door. Nor do I have access to the pins on the front door. Yeah. Burglars here in the United States make sure that, you know, contractors always swing the big door with the locks inward so that there is no access to those pins. That's like the, you know, burglar 101 here in the US. So, yep. My breath is starting to get a little bit more shallower. I'm starting to get a little tired, so hopefully we can get this bowl done so we can attach it to the handle and I can rest a little bit. We'll definitely get this done today, though. All right. Another heat. Hop on the roof, pull a few tiles aside, slip down through the manhole in the attic. I don't know if I have a manhole in the attic. And I would be a little bit afraid to go up on my roof. I haven't told you guys lately, but I desperately need a new roof. And I don't really want to fall through it, you know? We're getting there. All right, check that out. That's actually pretty darn good. Pretty deep as far as a bowl is concerned. And I don't know if you guys remember, but this is actually deeper than the shoulder area of the piece of armor that we made a couple of weeks ago. So I'm super excited about that. I want to go over the edges one more time, and I think I want to do that on the face of the anvil. And then we'll look at seeing about riveting this in place. Actually, you know what? I think I should actually chase that bowl a little bit. So once we're done, I don't want to touch those. I don't want to catch them. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way. We're going to use the flat of the anvil to address the top edges of the bowl. Then from there, we are going to move over to the post vise. We're going to put the ball stick in and chase it so it's a little bit smoother. Then we will look at riveting it onto the handle. We should still be able to get all of those actions done in time for the end of the stream, but it might be a little bit tight. Do you have access to grease and a sheet of paper? Grease the glass, put the sheet of paper on it, tap until the glass breaks. Oops, but you're in. You know what? When we went to buy our house, the side door, the one that I accessed to get my Gatorade and things like that, it had a giant window. It was like yay big, right? And when the inspector came and said, and told the previous owner that they couldn't have that big of a pane of glass on the outside door of or without bars. So there's actually bars in front of the glass in the on that door. And it's not necessarily real bars. It's like diamond plate, but or I guess it's expandable steel. That's what I'm trying to say. It's expandable steel. You can still see out of it, but you're definitely not breaking in. I think my best bet for breaking into my own house would be a sawzall, to be quite honest. All right, I'm going to switch hammers. We're going to go from this ball peen. We're going to go over here. And we're going to use this raising hammer on the big high edge. So I'm just glad that I have my keys. There was one time where I actually did lock myself out of the house. And I had to ask the butler to come home for lunch to get me in. And ever since then, I do the pocket Macarena, which is what I call, patting down all my pockets to make sure that I have all my everyday carry. Well, if it comes to hammering the door open, hit the hinge side, it's usually softer. Yeah, definitely, because, you've got that extra plate, or not plate, but like that extra bit of wood for the deadbolt. You might have a big enough bar stock to make a breaching bar. I probably do. I probably do. All right. Let me change the angle on the camera because right now it is focused on nothing. So let me make sure that it is focused on the face of the anvil, because we are going to be playing with that edge. All right. As I trip over my tripod. Goodness gracious. If not a bar, then you get an axe. I do have an axe. We made an axe together. I have an axe to use. I can't count the number of times I've been locked out to the point where going through, putting a kid through a window to unlock the door. I used to get locked out a lot more frequently when I was younger, but I've been locked out of the house so many times these days, I prepare for it. I make sure, Whoopsie. As I completely drop it. Well, not completely, it wasn't a full drop, but it was close. All right, so that's a pretty decent bowl. So if we bring the handle over, that's like a major big old soup thing. That's actually kind of funny. Whew. All right, we're gonna grab a little bit more heat, and then we're gonna chase some of these lumps and bumps away. Literally, we're gonna chase them. Hey, Blue Red Metal, welcome to the stream. Yes, that automatized tricks my brain. Pads on the right pocket. Oh no, my keys are not there. Where are they? Oh, they're in my left hand, locking the door. Yes. So I whenever I leave the house, I have to pat my front pockets and my back pockets, right? So my wallet, my keys, and my cell phone, I got to make sure they're all there. and then I can leave. And then my keys are also like on this hip. The ladle bowl is coming along nicely. Yeah, I agree. So I think the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the post vise. And we're going to toss in this ball steak. Nowadays, I know how to pick locks thanks to the LPL, so it only takes me a minute or two to get in. Basically doing a Catholic blessing, y'all self thing, only checking pockets. Yes. You know, it's the pocket Macarena, you know? Although the Macarena is like this one, right? So it's like half the Macarena. That's why I call it that. Okay. I am going to change the angle on the camera so that I can show you guys the ball steak. And I got to figure out what hammer I'm going to use because my chasing hammer is in the small shop. So I got to figure out what hammer I'm going to use. Give me half a second to do that, and then we'll do our next heat. Okay, I need something really flat. This one's kind of rounded. Most of those hammers that I would normally use are actively in the small shop, but that's relatively flat. I think we're going to use this hammer base. So we're going to put this guy away. All right. Welcome to the Old Timer Club. People under 30 have no idea what you're talking about. The Macarena? Probably. That was like so long ago. Alrighty. Let's see what we can do here. I'm going to put that and set right there. Oh, this is hot. Whew. That's effort, man. That is effort. This is the heaviest hammer I have ever attempted to use for chasing purposes. Apologies. Okay, I'm going to heat this up again, and we're going to do another pass of chasing. And then we should be good to go. Like I said, I'm definitely going to feel this. So I am not hammering hard enough for the rebound to kick in. I'm hammering into, like, when I was on the swage block, I was hammering into dead air. So even if I was hammering at a speed and or like a speed that I would have been able to get return, the air stops that return from happening. So it's just dead, and every blow I have to pick up the hammer. Same with the chasing action. So I am picking up 1.5 pounds every blow. And so it's starting to fatigue my tendons a little bit. That's an old timer thing. All right. So we've got an ad break starting in about 3 minutes. I'm going to put this guy in the forge because we're going to have to straighten it out. It kind of bends this direction. So, yeah. I need a set of tongs to do that with. That way it can kind of soak it up a bit. All right, now we're gonna do actually, you know what? I'm gonna rest a little bit. Once this ad is over, then we'll do our next pass on chasing the bull, making sure that we get rid of the lumps, bumps, and anything that's like not regular and like smooth. That way I have a chance to kind of rest my tendons just a hair. So we've done quite a lot today. You know, we've made a bowl for our keys, you know, out of copper. This guy, we've got a little bit of cleanup work to do. Maybe some, it could definitely use some chasing. And then it could also use a little bit of upsetting the edges to kind of smooth them out, make them a little bit more regular. Chasing the bull. I know you like to drop it, but throwing it and running after it, yes. We're playing catch with the bull. And then we also made a steel version. So this is the copper version. The steel version is in the forge. And we are in the process of smoothing it out. And then we're going to rivet it to the handle. We've got about a half an hour left in our normal stream. I think it's probably going to take a little bit closer to an hour to get this done. Because we still have to poke holes in the bowl. I figured that chasing the bull was a drug thing and I wasn't cool enough. I mean, I don't do the drugs. Except for caffeine, if you consider caffeine a drug. That is my drug of choice. But yeah, chasing is the process of hammering onto or to smooth out a piece of, or like a vessel, I guess. So you are hammering directly on a stake to kind of flatten it out, make it nice and smooth. You could smith the perfect steel frisbee. Admittedly, the path would be cleared when you use it to prevent injuries, right? It would be painful. But, I mean, they throw discuses. Aren't those just like heavy, like stone or metal frisbees? For the Olympic sport, discus? I guess it's not really a Olympic, or I mean, it is an Olympic sport, but it's more of a track and field sport than, you know, just an Olympic sport. The steel boomerang at Mad Max was too bad enough, or Mad Max 2 was bad enough. I can only imagine. That sounds horrible. All right. So we're going to use this. Like that hat Oddjob had in Goldfinger. Something like that. Yep. Oh, goodness gracious. This might actually take a little bit of extra time. Well, I know it will take some extra time, but I'm starting to get a little bit worn out. So we'll see what happens by the time we get the chasing done and then punching in the holes in the ladle bowl. We might end up having to rivet it on Friday at the very beginning of the stream. Hopefully we can finish it today, though. I'm aiming to finish today. Famous last words. What's that woman gonna do with that weird metal glong, right? Like Xena's chakram, yes. Chakrams. Those are a weird weapon because they're real weapons, right? Chakram. They have historical use, but they just seem so impractical, you know? Super impractical. All right, let's do another heat. We are chasing or flattening out our bowl for our ladle. Ouch. All right, I'm thinking I need one more heat to chase. And there's another drop, guys. Go ahead and hit the drop button. I need another heat to get that last little bit of the edge nice and smooth. And then from there, you know, we are going to punch it. Punch it! They're tame compared to the whip sword. See, I don't necessarily think a whip sword is a very practical weapon. Because, I mean, it is incredibly easy to hit yourself with a whip, right? So if you're not using a whip sword correctly, you're going to cut yourself. It's like nunchucks, right? Nunchucks look really, really cool, but even if you are a master at using nunchucks, you're constantly hitting yourself with them. So I definitely don't think that a sword whip would be practical. In India, they have one with 7 blades, each of them razor sharp. Ooh. Yeah. I guess I kind of wonder if there is any historic precedence for them actively using it for combat. Or even worse, the scariest weapon of them all, a spoon. Imagine you go to war holding your war club or double-handled sword or scimitar and shield or such, and you walk into battle or a battlefield. Across from you is a guy or a girl looking at you, just grinning, holding a spoon. I mean, that would be kind of intimidating because it's like, what can you do that you feel safe enough to come out into this battlefield with just a spoon? Right? That's crazy. Crazy, crazy. All right. Grabbing our punch. I'll probably stick it over here so that I don't drop it again. Yep, so you understand. I do a little bit. All right. Spoons are good for eating the brains right from the skull. That is rather morbid to think about. Any of you guys watch the YouTuber Sellsword Arts? Some of these weapons you'll have to let them know about, because, like, they're constantly testing out weapons, seeing what's practical and what's not. Ow, this scale keeps coming off of here, and it's kind of on the hot side. It bounced underneath of my safety glasses. That was awesome. Alright, I think we're good on that. So we're pretty darn smooth. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to put some holes in here for this particular piece. And then, but before we do that, we are going to straighten out the handle. Alright, so I'm going to put that right there. Hopefully it'll stay. I am going to stick that right there, and then we're going to move the camera back over to the forge, or I mean the anvil. Goodness gracious. We're definitely starting to tell that I'm getting a little bit on the tired side, so I think we are probably going to be doing some riveting on Friday. Apologies. I know I said for real this time. All right. Okay. For real this time. All right, move that over there. I want this hammer. We're good to go. Spoons are dull. They hurt more, according to Sheriff Nottingham. The mighty spork, or the dragon slaying. Rivet, rivet, rivet! Something like that. We'll see what we can do. Like I said, I'm starting to get tired, and when I get too tired, it gets a little bit dangerous to be out here. So I'm going to try my very best to get to a point where I am not, you know, a danger to myself. But I can still get these rivets taken care of. Alright. Okay. If I look down this, is it straight? No, it's not. If I look down this, is it straight? A little bit. It's closer. Alright, one more heat, and then we should be able to straighten that all out. It should be good to go. Yep, tired person make mistakes, and when mistakes mean trips to the A and E, better to stop. Yes. So that is exactly where my brain is going. I have to judge how tired I am, that I need to stop and take a break, or, you know, if I think that I am capable of continuing. So that's unfortunately where I'm at right now. Okay. All right, one more heat straightening out the handle, and then I'm going to pull out the swage block, and we'll see what we can do as far as attaching the handle to the bowl. I have scars across my left palm from just one more heat, right? Yeah. I have several scars just like that. I have a rule that I always follow. It's 3 strikes and you're out. If I make 3 mistakes, minor or major, I stop. I've only actively hit that one time since I started streaming, because I'm usually pretty good at judging myself. But, you know, there's always a first time. Okay, I think we're good on that for the moment. Okay. So that's going to cool down. All right, my bowl is not nearly as cool as I thought it was going to be. So we are going to attach these two just like so. All right. All right, guys, I think I have made my decision. Both the bowl and the handle are very hot. I'm going to need them both to be dead cold so that I can get a good spacing between the 2 holes on the handle, and so that I can put them on the bowl. So I think instead of waiting for them to cool off, because I don't have a quench bucket right now, that would be ideal, but I didn't fill it today because, you know, I didn't know that I was going to need it. Anyway, so I think that I'm probably going to raid off. I know I keep saying that I'm going to finish this project, and I keep just delaying it, but I think I'm going to raid off. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support the channel and for watching. Thank you for joining me today. But yeah, I'm starting to get really tired. So thank you guys so much. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Good plan. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I want to, but I think my body is telling me no. Thank you, and have a nice day. I got 2 bowls done. That's plenty good. It is quite a bit for me, you know? I'm not unhappy with what I got, you know? Okay, interesting as always. Have a good one. Thank you so much. All right, who are we going to raid? Let's see. Have a great one, Lexi. Alrighty. I think we're going to raid Valencia today. We have not seen Valencia on in quite some time. No apologies. Thanks for the stream. Thanks, Ping. All right. We're going to raid Valencia. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you Friday. Bye.